Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about a game from a franchise beloved by all racing fans and which is set to release a new title the next month. Of course, I'm talking about Forza Horizon. I don't even need to mention the game's qualities, do I? From the very first game to today, the franchise has produced a series of amazing games. Well, except for one of them. In today's video, we'll be talking about Forza Horizon 2, but specifically the Xbox 360 version. Because back in December 2025, not just one but two prototypes were leaked, believe it or not. So without further ado, let's get the video started and talk about these builds. First, let's talk about why this specific version of the game is still considered the worst in the franchise. Well, while Forza Horizon 2 for Xbox One featured a massive graphical leap forward, an improved and bigger open world, the Xbox 360 version suffered several downgrades and is even considered worse in some aspects when compared to the first game in the franchise. It had kinda bad graphics for the time and a map where the roads were bordered by walls, meaning you couldn't drive off the map and onto the grass as was possible in the Xbox One version. There were also several other cuts, such as some cars that don't appear in this stripped down version, entire sections of the map that are missing, and much more. But what if I told you it was supposed to be quite different? In the early development phase, the idea was that this port would basically be the same game as the Xbox One version. So let's start by talking about the two leaks. Someone found an Xbox 360 dev kit containing a prototype of Forza Horizon 2 and one for the first Forza Horizon as well. But the interesting thing is that the first Forza Horizon also has files that describe it as being Forza Horizon 2, and this is reflected in the date it was compiled. While the final game was released on October 23, 2012, this version was built on October 10, 2013. Practically a year after the first game was released. Weird, right? So, what are the differences? Well, the only difference is that this version has a debug menu where you can even watch cutscenes from the game, go directly to any point on the map, or explore the map with a free roaming camera. Basically everything. So why was it compiled almost a year after the game was released? Well, this build was likely used for visual references by the developer team of Sumo Digital, which was responsible for porting Forza Horizon 2 to the Xbox 360. But now, let's talk about the most interesting build we found, the May 2014 build of Forza Horizon 2. And, well,
in 200 yards, turn left.
yes, it's actually kind of funny that the final version was released on September 30, 5 months after this build. And still, this May build is completely unfinished. A large part of the map hasn't even been textured yet, basically consisting only of its geometry. But before we talk about the map itself, it's important to note that inside this builds folder, there are several executables, and even a Windows executable file, which suggests that at some point it was even possible to run this version on a standard computer of that era. In this video, I'll show the performance version of this build and sometimes the debug version. The main difference between them is that the debug version is much slower in the emulator. Well, the first thing to note is that even the game menu is unfinished, with a huge banner that says placeholder. And the map in this version has another interesting detail, aside from being obviously incomplete. It has the exactly same geometry as the Xbox One version, and why is that relevant? Well, in the Xbox One version, the map featured much larger open areas, allowing players to roam freely in almost every place, including large grassy fields. And we can confirm this in the golf course area, for example. In the Xbox One version, the golf course is completely open. You can drive freely through the open areas. But in this port, for any reason the course is completely enclosed by walls, severely limiting where you can go. But in this prototype, it doesn't have any walls. Even though it uses low poly textures, you can see how open this part of the map is in this version. But there is one specific spot that I'm sure you'll find even more interesting. You probably already know that in the Xbox 360 version, the entire docks area is completely inaccessible. There's even a fence blocking your way. And this is really sad because this was a big area in the Xbox One version, but in this early development stage, it was fully accessible, even though it's completely lacking textures and collision in some places. Another interesting detail about the map is that even the airport is unfinished in this phase of development, completely lacking in texture. One last thing I want to mention about the map is that, for some reason, when you open the map from the game menu, it shows a reference to Switzerland. In my opinion, this doesn't mean much, since Switzerland borders Italy and France in real life. But it's still interesting because it doesn't appear on the map in the final version. Now let's speak about the cars. That's also where there was a major difference between the Xbox 360 and Xbox One versions of Forza Horizon 2. In fact, did you know there are unique cars in each version? It wasn't necessarily a case of cars being cut from the Xbox 360 version, but perhaps a kind of exchange instead. One such example is the Ferrari 330 P4. It appears only in the Xbox One version. But guess what? It also appears in this build, and believe it or not, it looks practically finished with no visual bugs or anything, so it's really strange that it isn't in the final version. Speaking about the gameplay, the handling is practically identical to that of the retail version with no significant updates compared to the first Forza Horizon. The main difference in gameplay I can point out is in the game's opening intro. For some reason, it doesn't feature the game's signature car, the Lamborghini Huracan, but rather they use the Lamborghini Gallardo. Additionally, we start at a location that simply doesn't exist in the retail version, and it follows a completely different route too. I also want to highlight that, aside from this intro gameplay, all the other races are incomplete or will just crash when you try to start them. That's why it's really strange to think this game was just 5 months away from its final release.
Hey, get through the speed trap faster than the target we've set, and you'll reap the rewards.
Turn around when it is safe to do so.
Now let's focus on the debug menu. You of course have options, from exploring the map with a free roaming camera, adding useful information for developers, all the way to watching all the game's cutscenes. Many of them are unfinished cutscenes that just don't make any sense, but one I found interesting is called E3 Loop, which, as the name suggests, was used in some E3 presentation. I honestly didn't find exactly the same camera angles used here in the game's presentation at E3 2014. But perhaps it was used at the demo stands as a background video when no one was playing. One last thing I want to mention here, and this is also somewhat related to the beta cutscenes in the game, is that most of them are literally just a black background with placeholder text, just like what appears in the game's menu. But within the files, there's a really interesting intro. Honestly, I can't even tell if it's an intro intended for the game or maybe a teaser trailer that was never released. And just like in the menu, this video even ends with the game's beta logo, which was quite different from the final version, since in the final game, the logo is practically the same as the one from the first Forza Horizon. Interesting, isn't it? Forza Horizon is one of the series I'm most attached to, since I've played every game in the series. And funny enough, I only played Forza Horizon 2 on the Xbox 360, since I never owned an Xbox One, and still don't to this day. So even though I consider it the weakest of the ones I've played, I still have kinda of nostalgia for it. What about you? Have you played the Xbox 360 version? Will you play the new Forza Horizon 6? Leave a comment below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.